And we welcome back to the show good friend of ours, the privacy professor Rebecca Herold is here as we are still trying to wrap our head around what on earth happened involving the lottery, with somebody coming in and finally being accused of fixing the lottery and convicted of fixing the lottery. And this all has to do with computers, so you're the one we turn to.
Oh, this has been so interesting, this whole case, because it involves all the different types of security controls that we talk about. It includes the administrative controls and the physical controls and the technical controls and the insider threat, of course. Tipton, who was the one who they tried and found guilty of trying to do this, he was the director of security. So even though there were many layers of security around these systems, he had knowledge, intimate knowledge of how those systems worked, and he also knew where there was opportunity. So I did bring some diagrams to perhaps show you how some of this might have happened. So the first one is basically, that's the lotto ticket, the hot lotto ticket that he used, he went in and got. So it had the numbers on there. Notice it has people who signed that lottery, the winning lottery ticket.
Which you have to do.
Which you have to do.
And they put trustee on there, which...
They put trustee on there, and pretty soon when we come along, we'll find out that they spelled the name of the trustee wrong. So that was a red flag right there.
Really?
Also, something to the credit of Iowa Lottery, the Multi-State Lottery Association, they do not allow anonymous claims to these tickets. Some states do, but they don't. So that helped them to find errors in what people claim. So let's look at the opportunity that Tipton had as this director of security. Okay, so here, this is a very simplistic view of what the hot lotto computer room looks like according to what I could put together. I read, you know,
this is your rendition.
So this is my rendition, very simplistic, just for explaining purposes only. But there were only 5 people who had access into this room, and in this room there was a camera. And it recorded everything that went on in that room. The 2 computers that were used to choose the winning numbers, and they used a random number generator. So they didn't use balls. Random number generators can be very good, very dependable to truly randomly, from a mathematical standpoint, pick random numbers. So what would happen is, would have on the night of the drawing, they would have 2 people. So you would have 2 people up in that upper left circle there. They would be the ones, each of them would have a key, and they would both have to use that key on the key lock that was on that, what I put as a see-through case where these 2 computers were. Somebody would flip a coin to determine which of those 2 computers they would use to pick the numbers that night. So they flipped the coin.
Boy, it's that random.
Yeah, so the 2 people would have to then go over, both put their keys in, open it up, and then that's when they would start the actual program. They also had a little tag on there, and that tag would be kind of like, you know, your freshness seal that would show a number to say, oh, this hasn't been fiddled with since the last time. So they would go in, they would start the program. So there was always only just these 5 people. Now, another person that had access was the director of security. So down in the lower left, that person had access. That was Tipton, because he was the one who had to make sure that the system was running correctly, that the security was good, and so on. It's worth noting that those computers were not attached to any other computer, so it wasn't like you could hack into them
I was wondering
remotely.
About that. Okay.
So this is how it was set up. That camera was running all the time. Well, on the night that Tipton went in, he actually went into this room supposedly right after daylight savings time on November 20th, 2010. He was like, hey, I need to go in there and make sure that the date is set correctly. So he went into the room, and I couldn't tell if anyone was with him or not. I thought there was always supposed to be 2 people, but he was in there that night. Interestingly enough, when he was in there that night, the video was only recording 1 second per every minute that he was in there. So that meant that you only saw in the room for 1 second, and that gave him 59 seconds of window every minute.
That's like Mission Impossible.
Yeah, and during that time, it's speculated that he could have had a USB drive with him. So he was to those computers. He could have inserted the USB drive into those computers and actually installed. This is what a USB drive, similar to it. They also have a lot smaller ones of this. But he could have stuck the USB drive into the computer and loaded what they anticipate was a rootkit type of program. Now, a rootkit program is computer code that hides itself within a system. A lot of times, malicious code is delivered through rootkits, but there's legitimate uses for it too, like for security and so on. But it's kind of like putting on the Harry Potter thing. So this would be what a normal, and this is my view, this is not any official view, but this is just what I think is one possibility. You launch the program, it goes into the program, does the random number generator, and spits out the winning numbers. Well, if we go to the next one, here's what I think could have happened with a rootkit. He could have put this rootkit into both of those computers, or maybe one, it depends. But he could have put that in, and instead of doing the random number generator, he might have had the rootkit look first to see what date it was, because he had to know it was going to run on a certain date. That's my hypothesis. There's other people who have different ones.
And then that forced it to kick out the numbers you already knew.
That would kick out the numbers, and it wouldn't go to the random number generator. And then after it was finished, it deleted itself.
Destroyed itself.
That destroys all evidence. And the reason they think he did this was because he was supposedly obsessed with rootkits. He had even did a presentation on how to use rootkits at a lottery conference before this, and one of the people testified that he had told him back like in October of that year that he actually possessed a rootkit that was self-destructing. So that's where we're thinking he did this. Now, all the controls of the Lotto helped to prevent him from actually, bringing the ticket and claiming the 16 point. Yeah, because there were inconsistencies in stories and so on.
You wonder why they're so detailed when it comes to this. This is the reason why.
And you can see, with my simplistic diagram, they had physical security, the room, only certain people. They had administrative. You had to have, 2 people to do it. You had to check the ticket a certain way. So it'll be a fascinating
story. Better understanding of how this may have happened, because we still couldn't wrap our head around how this really happened, and now that gives us a little bit better idea of how that occurred.
It's amazing though that he was so smart, and enough to figure out how to do this, yet he wasn't smart enough to hire someone to wear a hoodie and you know what I mean, and have somebody claim the ticket that looked like the person that was on the video.
Yeah, and plus the guy that actually called in to claim it, they asked him what he was wearing, and he said he was wearing a tweed jacket, and he was in his 60s.
Wouldn't you just have that part? You did the first part that was the hard part, but now the second part of it, you'd think I would know to say, oh, I wear a hoodie. I'm a 40-year-old man.
Yes, but this type of fraud has been going on a long time. I mean, here's a fun fact for you. Back in 1978, James Woods, the famous actor, he did a movie called The $1 Billion Bubble, and it was along the same lines of computer fraud and how this company had over $200 million of made-up money through a computer change. So it's a long-time thing. So it would make a great movie, this particular case.
All right, folks, obviously you can see Rebecca knows what she's talking about, and if you have some security questions or anything like that computer-wise, you can get a hold of her a bunch of different ways.
Yes, there's my original site. You can click the question mark, and I would be happy to answer it. I also have a site for lots of different, especially small to mid-sized companies, help them with their security programs to prevent people from being able to do things like we just discussed. And then I have a consulting site, so if you have specific questions and you want to talk with me about them, you can click the question mark there, and I'd be happy to speak with you.
Or our favorite way to follow you is on Twitter.